And tonight we'd want to speak to more students and especially candidates who were hoping to sit their examinations this year and move on to the next level of education. And unfortunately, that will have to wait given the COVID-19 situation. And I'm joined this evening by Jackson Wanjir of Maranda High School. He is joining us in Kisumu. Hope Chahale Moi Educational Center. She is here in Nairobi. And Heshbon Ngoche is joining us. He's a candidate at Nyeri High School. Thank you for joining us this evening, guys. And I'd like to start with, of course, Hope, ladies first. What's your feeling about the decision by the government to hold off the exams till next year?
Okay, well, at first, I didn't like the idea of repeating
she can hear
a
me
class.
and
Pardon?
just go on. Go ahead.
So at first, I didn't really like the idea of repeating a class because, I mean, no one would like to repeat a class. But I figured out that it's for our best because our health is much more important.
Right. And what about you, Jackson? Do you feel this is a good call? I don't think Jackson could hear that one, but Heshbon Ngoche, you've heard what Hope has said, and it's seemingly in the interest of the students, in the best interest. Is that your view as well?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I do agree with Hope there that it is due to the status of the country and how the coronavirus has affected us all. And so I believe the Cabinet Secretary did it just as a choice of protecting the students in Kenya and protecting everyone in Kenya. But all in all, again, it is disorienting and it's a very hectic year, I guess. And I think a whole year going to waste. I mean, when you are closing, we thought it was around a few months, but now a whole year, well, that's quite a big deal, Mark.
Yeah, definitely. Jackson, if you can hear me now, with your response to what the rest your colleagues have said, I believe we're still having a problem with that. But Hope, how have you been keeping yourself busy? Heshbon has just said it feels like it's a whole year wasted. How have you been busy with the time that you've been home? Hope, if you can hear me, how have you been keeping yourself positively occupied when you're home?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you properly.
In the meantime, while you have been home, how have you been taking your time in terms of the free time some would imagine that you have had being at home? One would imagine you have been having a lot of fun. Is that the case?
Pardon?
Let me throw this to Heshbon. Sorry about that, Hope. We seem to be having an issue with the sound getting through to you. But Heshbon, you spoke of a year wasted, but we have been encouraged to keep ourselves occupied with studying, at least following through with what you would have been covering on the curriculum. Is that what you have been doing in the meantime?
Well, now we do online classes. So we get to do little than we used to in class. So right now, the much that we would have covered in class, we can't get to do it that much.
Right.
In the online classes. So it has really affected us.
Heshbon, would you say this has bought you a bit more time, perhaps, to catch up with what you were lagging on?
Yeah, sure, Mark. It has created an opportunity, an avenue for us to remind ourselves, especially the work which we did in Form 1 and Form 2, again in Form 3, so that when we get back to finishing our syllabus, that is probably, if God so willing, next year, we will only have Form 4 work to do. But then again, you cannot exhaust everything. I mean, of course, it's good to have that time to revise, but again, you still find, even when we get back, that there is a certain part you didn't exhaust. There's a certain part you didn't really get.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it has created an opportunity to go back to that work, but again, as I said, it's a very, very long time, and of course, studying at times becomes tiresome. So it's a double-edged sword.
Right. Jackson Wanjir, candidate at Maranda High School. I believe you can hear me now. Do you see any positives with the time you will have at home?
Positives, really. Maybe in revising, but pushing our exams to 2021 is really pushing the inevitable. And I think we should have just opened school in September rather than January, because there's nothing new that the government can do to curb the crisis. And if we opened earlier, then there wouldn't be, say, a clog in the flow of students in school.
Would you, Jackson, have been confident with going back had the Education Ministry said candidates can go back to school as soon as possible?
Well, first, I'm happy if the government would have said we would be going to school as early as possible. And I'd like to take the question again.
Right. It's more of the concern about the COVID-19 spread and your protection and the protection of the family as well. There is no fear in you had the schools reopened and you going back to school?
Personally, in our school, we're around 2,000 students. You can't maintain social distance in such a school.
Right.
Where the same facilities that were used in the year 19 were around the same class that housed 30 students is now housing around 50 students. Mm-hmm. It's really funny that you're trying to tell us that there will be social distancing in such a school.
Right. We all hear you on that, yeah. Jackson. Hope, if you would tell the Minister or the CS for Education one thing, your concern, what would your word to him be?
Pardon?
Your word to the Cabinet Secretary to consider you as a candidate, what would you ask of him?
Okay, first, I think that repeating class 8, because I'm a candidate, I was really expecting to go to high school, but now we have to repeat class 8. I know it's for our best interest, but I really don't like the idea of repeating a class. So what I would tell him is to reconsider the idea of repeating our classes.
All right. Heshbon, would you have a word for the other candidates who, as you have felt, have had a wasted year? What's your word of encouragement?
Mark, I'd like to encourage my fellow students and tell them that this, as you journalists keep on saying, unprecedented times. Yes. And so all you have to do is come up with ideas and, try out something, try out a hobby. You can try and learn playing an instrument. You can maybe try and work out, be the next Dwayne Johnson. I don't know. Maybe try something new that you feel will make you better. And many people are saying that if you get through this COVID-19 period without coming out with something new, or having a new skill that you have developed, or having a new art that you have developed, then you will have wasted a whole year. And so I'd like to encourage them just to do something that can keep you busy, that can take you far, maybe somewhere in future. Because as many people are saying, the CS right now, Professor Magoha, is at a very hard place. I mean, he's pushed by parents that we don't want our children to get sick, we don't want our children to get the virus. But yet again, he still looks at the curriculum and says that this will be a whole year gone to waste.
Right.
And so I do agree with the CS that if I would have a word to tell him, like you asked Hope, I would tell the CS that he should keep on looking out for the health of students all across the country, because that is what really matters. We can do the exam next year, we can recover the time next year, but what comes first is health, because without health, then we cannot have that.
Jackson Wanjir, your last word. You're not doing the exam this year. You will have to wait to do it next year. Do you feel like it's the end of your world?
Not really. Exams is not really everything. The other things in life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And your word to the CS?
Yeah. But CS Mango, I hope he's doing well wherever he is. And I'd like him to try to find a way in which we can do our exams this year, because it's unfair to us that we have to do exam next year.
Right.
Spending 5 years in high school. It's not really right.
That's right, Jackson Wanjir, who's joining us in Kisumu. He's a candidate in Maranda High School. Hope Chahale here in Nairobi from Moi Educational Center, and Heshbon Ngoche from Nyeri High School. Your thoughts, of course, and your time, well appreciated, and I'm sure echoed around the country with your colleagues and the others who were hoping to sit their exams this year.